Today we take a look at the Inner Sphere Command Lance. So I want to get one thing out of the way. When you buy a brand new Inner Sphere Command Lance from Catalyst Game Labs, that does not come painted. These are hand painted by myself and put into the box. I thought I'd show you painted miniatures rather than bare plastic. There's been a lot of other unboxings on the internet and across YouTube just showing you the bare plastic, and I don't really want to go down that road. I could do comparisons, but what's it gonna do? What's it gonna show? Do you guys like bare plastic, or do you want painted miniatures? I don't know. For me, I'd much rather see the end product be painted, so I have an idea of what I could actually do with the product rather than guesstimate. So here we are. So yeah, in the box, rotating sweetly on my brand new turntable, is the painted Inner Sphere Command Lance. In it, you're going to get a Valkyrie, you're going to get a Stinger, and you're going to get a Marauder and Archer. The Archer has its bomb doors open, or missile pod doors open, ready to unleash hell, gladiator style. And the Marauder is in a nice little stalking pose. I like it. The Stinger and the Valkyrie are kind of like in these walking poses, not too static. There's a little bit of motion there. So I think if you really wanted to like convert these, hack them up and repose them, you definitely can. It kind of lends itself to it, the way they've got these a little bit posed. So let's go ahead and start looking at the individual models. First up is the Marauder. This is your classic Marauder. You know, the one that Harmony Gold doesn't want you to see. It's painted up in Crescent Hawk colors. That is going to be my new army for the new year. So moving forward, any more Inner Sphere mechs that I paint up that are canonically before 3071, I think is when the Crescent Hawks got disbanded, is probably going to end up in Crescent Hawk colors. When I originally got the miniature, the only defects I had on it was that the gun barrel was bent. I took a hair dryer, heated up the plastic a little bit, and bent it back into position. Now, over time, after painting and priming, it has kind of slowly gone a little soft. It needs a little bit of a help from their friends at Pfizer. But I'll fix that later on down the road. But that giant cannon's pretty sweet. And one thing I wanted to get across with this, with these models, and you'll see it in the other Lance too, is if you look at their feet, I wanted to have them to have like bird talons. So when I was looking at other Crescent Hawk models on the internet, I didn't really see that motif, and maybe I'm just blind, but I wanted there to be something else too, just the gray legs. The paint scheme is pretty simple for the Crescent Hawks. It's a golden yellow, a gray, and like almost like a baby blue. Finding a nice place though for the decal was probably the hardest part on this miniature. So I decided to go ahead and place it on like the right breast of the mech, right above that exhaust vent or intake or whatever you want to call it, right next to the cockpit. That's where it's at. You could probably get a little bit more creative. I could have put a smaller one somewhere else, but I really wanted you to be able to see it. The small logos are nice, just to know that they're there, but you can't really see them. And next up is the Valkyrie. Valkyrie is also one of the most sought-after mechs for BattleTech, as it's one of the unseen. It was off limits for a long time. But here it is, and we get it right out of the gate in this new box set. It's spectacular. I love the miniature. As far as quality goes, I had some mold line issues with it that I tried to clean up and scrape away. I would say that both the Valkyrie and the Stinger were not fun to paint because they're so small. I really just didn't have fun painting them. But I really like the way they turned out, especially the Valkyrie over the Stinger. I'm not happy with my Stinger. We'll get there when we get there. But yeah, it's a great miniature. it's a great representation of a long lost, and I say that with quotation marks, mech. Now we come to my favorite mech of the box set, the Archer. I love this miniature. If I had any inkling of skill or technique with green stuff, or if I had a 3D printer, I would print and design little missiles just shooting out everywhere, anime style, out of those missile pods. I mean, this miniature screams that you have to have that, and unfortunately I didn't do it justice from that perspective. As far as defects go with this miniature, mine came with the little antenna fins on the back, slightly bent. I had to heat them up again with the hairdryer to straighten them, and along with the missile doors. They were a little warped as well. I did try to fix them as best I can, but much like the Marauder, I'm gonna have to get them some Blue Chew or something else to fix that. The end result is nice. It's my favorite out of all four, not only in terms of how it looks, it's a chunky big missile dealing mech, and the paint job. I think I nailed it. I really feel like I nailed this one. I just felt so elated when I got done with it, and I varnished it, and the varnish didn't fog up and cloud any of the miniature, and I was just like, oh my god, this one's done and it's saved. It's perfect. I cannot wait for it to hit the table. I loved my primitive archers that I did for my custom mercs, but this miniature just tops those primitive archers. I love that design, but I love this one more. Give me more of these. I want more of these. Just sell me a lance of these. Oh, so good. Which brings us to the last mech in the pack, which is the Stinger. This is a mech that I've also been wanting a redo for a long time. But the unfortunate thing is like the Lamb version that they released, the metal one, it didn't really quite scratch the itch. I didn't really like the primitive ones, or the Rescene, or whatever they want to call it. I can't remember. There's like 30 different versions of some of these guys out there. But at the end of the day, opened it up, and it looks like, from mine, on this particular version, like the mold shifted a little bit on the cockpit. It just doesn't look right. It looks very kind of oblong. I don't know what happened. There were some really bad mold lines on this one as well. Tried to clean them up as best I can without removing detail off the miniature, and that's the biggest problem I have, is the type of plastic that they used is kind of a pain in the ass to clean mold lines off of. I don't fault Catalyst at all. You know, these are game pieces, right? These are for a board game. It's not a big deal. I'm not painting for display standards. But I normally don't remove mold lines. I only typically do it when I want to show off my work and put it on the fridge and have mommy and daddy pat me on the head. You know, so it was kind of frustrating here. Still a really quality miniature. I think the pose is okay. Maybe on the next one, I do have 2 more Stingers. I think I'm going to chop one of them up and repose it in a little bit more of a more dynamic pose, rather than what we have here. But I at the end of the day, I do like this miniature. It just has a couple slight twerks to it. The one thing though that made me laugh when I ended up putting the double insignias on each breast, I kept calling this guy Pepperoni Nippers, just because of how big those emblems are on the chest of the mech. But it's kind of also an homage to, if you look at the cover art for the original Crescent Hawk's Inception, the Locust on the cover has 2 Crescent Hawk logos on each torso. So I kind of wanted to go with that motif a little bit. But yeah, big pepperoni nipples here. Oh man. Let's move on to the Alpha Strike cards that are included. You're going to get 4 double-sided cards, along with 4 double-sided lore cards that have pilots on them. The pilot cards are going to have some characteristic and stat numbers, so you can assign those to your mechs to kind of give a little bit of flavor. The Alpha Strike cards have 2 different variants of the mechs on them. So you have like the Marauder 5D and the Valkyrie QD and stuff like that. If I were to play this Lance stock as is, no changes, with only the cards that are available in the box, this is the load up I would take. I would take that Stinger 5M, the Archer 5S, the Marauder 5D, and the Valkyrie QD. Now, those are the most expensive versions of those mechs, but I think in terms of stat numbers and abilities, they're the most worthwhile. The Archer 2R is not as good as the 2D. The 3R for the Marauder isn't as good. There's an optimal choice and a suboptimal. Yeah, so you can see the Valkyrie QA and the Stinger 3R. I just wouldn't take those. They might be a couple points cheaper here and there, but I just wouldn't do it. I don't think it's worthwhile. So at the end of the day, would I recommend you picking up the Inner Sphere Command Lance? Hell to the effing yeah. This is something we should have had a long time ago, but I think the timing just wasn't there. The demand wasn't quite there. The infrastructure, whatever you want to call it. This Kickstarter that CGL had is, I think, the biggest boon for us BattleTech players in a long time. I gotta say thank you to Ironwind and Catalyst and Tops and for keeping BattleTech alive long enough to the point that we could get something this cool and something that is sorely needed as an intro product or a product for veterans to bulk out their collections. There is a reason to buy this if you already have the Unseens. You know, maybe you want to play your old Metal Marauders, that's totally cool. But maybe you want to also keep it in the display shelf so the arms don't break or fall apart when you're traveling to a con. These are great replacements for that. At the end of the day, this box set gets 5 empty wallets out of 5. It's the highest score I can give it. I would just spend all my money on these things, and I almost did basically with the Kickstarter. Alright guys, I'm going to let you go. If you have any questions, just hit me up below in the comments. I will respond, and have a great day.